Welcome to Decker Tech. I'm Aaron Decker, and today we're going to do a tutorial for Across the Obelisk. This will be a guide specifically geared for people that are brand new to deck builders, to Across the Obelisk, to everything here. I'm going to go over all the basics, explain everything. I'm not going to be, pedantic about it, but I will make sure that everything is explained and that there should be no questions after this video on how to play the game, how to progress in the game, that sort of thing. I do have several thousand hours in deck builders in general, over 1,000 in this one. I stopped keeping track after 1,000, and so I will walk us through all the things I think are important to understand about the game to decide if you want to keep playing it, progress forward, and enjoy it to its fullest extent. If you follow this video is the next step after this video would be watching the how to win with a starting team. So if at any point you feel like you've got all the thing covered in this video, you don't need any more help on this level, go ahead and jump to that video. If you are still struggling or want to learn more and progress more through the game, this will just be the basics. We'll go through a run together. It'll be the same run. You can follow along, and yeah, let's get into it. So Across the Obelisk is a deck builder. It is the option for co-op multiplayer, which is biggest claim to fame for this game and why most people will be playing it. So as a deck builder, we have this idea of meta progression. We're going to be doing, every game is going to be unique and contained and have its own progression, but we're going to pull from that run experience or gold or resources that will improve the game for us in general. Right now, this says, hey, you need a character with rank 3. So in our runs, we're going to level up our character. And there's a difference between your character level in the run and your character level outside of the run. And so right here, this is talking about outside of the run, your meta progression, your overall progression through the game entirely, not through each game session that you play. You need to get a character to rank 3, which we don't have because all our characters are rank 1. Sorry, I clicked through that screen really fast. What we're doing, adventure mode, you're going to have 3 save slots here. You can have 3 games running at any time. This, you can have 3 single players going. You can have 3 multiplayers going. You can have 3 of every flavor. So you got a lot of save files you can do here. Makes it so you can share runs with other people at the same house and or have multiple multiplayer sessions going with your friends, because some of the sessions can get pretty long. So starting run, it's going to say, hey, these are the only 4 characters you have unlocked, and this is part of that meta progression. As we play each run, we're going to be able to unlock these characters and play them in future runs, but we don't have them yet, and we have to go find them in the gameplay. In the universe, in the story. And you are not set to this order of people. You can rearrange them to your best content. Also, once you've unlocked 2 warriors or 2 scouts, you can have multiples in here. Do not be fooled by this background thing here. You do not have to have one of each flavor. You can have mix and match to your heart's content. We'll go with the default build because there are reasons why it is such. I have videos talking about team comps. Once you get the understanding and you want to explore other ones, go check that out if you need more help there. Now, with roguelike deck builders and stuff like this, the idea is that we're going to do this thing. We're going to play the same game together. Because down here in Game Seed, you're going to have a different number here. But if you click on it, we both type in the same words here, and we're going to go with Decker Tech, because, hey, that's the word we're going with, be it as it may. So now, the computers cannot generate random numbers randomly. They have algorithms that procedurally generate numbers, and you can create a sense of randomness by jumping in that algorithm, like starting at a different number on that algorithm. But if we all start with the same number, or in this case the same seed, then we all start at the same place, and if we take the same decisions, we'll have the same results, and nothing will be random between our 2 runs. You can use these game seeds to share, like if you enjoyed a run with someone else because it had cool items or cool events, you can share your game seed with someone else, and they can experience a very similar aspect depending on how many decisions they make differently as the run progresses, but you'll all start at the same spot. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to start with the Decker Tech seed so we are all on the same page here, and I've scouted it out. It has all the things I want to show you. These 16 characters are free to play. You just have to play the game to unlock them. Yager is you have to buy the DLC. Down here, Madness 0, this is where the difficulty of the game starts to scale in. So for roguelites, the game gets easier as you play it, and then you can start making it harder by unlocking difficulties, scaling, or the difficulty mode. In this case, the Madness selection here, we have Madness on the left side here, and Corruptors on the right. These should all have little padlocks on them. We can't click them yet, because we have to complete the adventure on normal mode to start unlocking the higher difficulties, and then every time we complete a difficulty, we can go to the next one. And these corruptors will modify the way the game plays. Don't worry about them now, check them out later at your heart's content, but these are how we make the game harder, and then playing the game and earning experience is how we make the game easier. So you should be able to find this happy medium where you are playing at a difficulty and an easiness that suits yourself. All right, enough of that, let's get into the game. So, begin adventure. We have selected 4 heroes. In multiplayer, you would be assigning those to different people. In single player, you're controlling all 4, but this can be an up to 4-player game, and everyone just manages their own hero. We will be progressing through this game by traveling through a map, making decisions on what events and what nodes to go to. And all these are going to be question marks for us now, but as you've explored them, it'll give you little reminders of what they are. The symbols will tell you what's going on here. All these exclamation points are characters that we can unlock. We have to go up to that character, say, hey, what's your quest? Hey, we'll do that for you. Maybe we can use you in a later run. You always progress from a town to a boss. After you do the boss, you will go to the Obelisk mode and select your next map. Currently in adventure mode, there are you'll progress through 4 acts. We're in Act 1 right now. And you'll make a couple decisions for Act 2 and 3, and then the final act is the same. So I skipped through the storyline very quickly because I forgot to, but the premise is the princess is missing, we must go find her. Very straightforward premise. All these little cross swords are going to be combats. All the books are going to be events that can or cannot lead, like that may or may not lead to combats or rewards or stuff like that. Quest nodes for characters. This little map right here, map transition. So map transitions are, we're going to leave this map. If it's after the boss, that's just going to the next act. It'll be another map just like this. But if it's inside the map somewhere, it's going to be a dungeon. Dungeons are going to be like this small little zone. It'll like give us to a smaller map with like 6 or 7 nodes that we can travel through. And it'll have its own little unique stories or bosses. All the dungeons have a mini boss in there. They have a lot of extra nodes. Nodes being these little tiles where we pick spots. And they have cool events and rewards. And, you know, they're generally fun, but challenging. Yes, but you just pick the path to what suits your fancy. For me, the tutorial, we're going to be going down this bottom route. First stop is the town. So in the town, this is where a lot of our meta progression is seen within a run. Remember, meta progression is the progress we made outside of this specific game. So that's going to be in this town upgrades up here at top. As we go through the game, we're going to be collecting supplies. And then we can spend these supplies on our runs to make the game different. There's a lot to digest here. Let's just look at this top part here. So the Magic Forge is where we can craft new cards for our deck. Let's talk about decks. So every character starts out with 15 cards. This is predetermined by the character. You can't choose the deck they start with. Cards, during the gameplay, we're going to be given these cards on each turn, and we're going to play them for the effects they have. Some are offensive, some are defensive, some, you know, apply buffs, debuffs. I'll get more to that in the combat, but the idea is that every time we go to town, we can modify our deck. We can, at the church, pay to remove cards that cost money. We have to always have at least 15 cards in our deck. We can go to the Magic Forge to create new cards to add to the deck. They cost shards. We can go to the altar to upgrade our cards. Every card has 2 upgrades. Well, 3 upgrades, but one's a corrupted one, which you won't really see until you start playing Madness. And these upgrades have different effects, and they cost amount of shards based on how the rarity of the cards. Like this one cost me 1,200 shards to upgrade. So odds are I'm not going to be upgrading that anytime soon with my 300 meager supplies here. You can also spend gold over here. Sorry, I'm clicking too fast. Over here, the Zingarian cart. This is how you can add cards to your deck, but they're random. So you'll click on, you know, the type of divination you have unlocked. It'll give you a selection of cards for each character, and you'll pick what you want for each one. And then we can also spend gold at the shop to buy items to upgrade our character. We're going to go to Andrin. We're going to give him the lockpicks that say add sharp. And everything on a card should have a tooltip. You just hover the card. It'll say, hey, sharp says slashing and piercing damage is +1 per charge of sharp. Sharp says it'll give me +2 sharp. So we'll do that for Andrin. Increases damage a little bit because in his deck, you'll see there is a lot of, it says, this little symbol is piercing, and this little symbol is slashing, which is both of the things sharp effect. And if ever you have questions, you can always go to the Tome of Knowledge and the Glossary and this will explain most of the symbols. Do we have slashing in here? I actually don't see slashing. Interesting. But, you know, we can click on sharp and, hey, this increases slashing and piercing damage. I guess to see slashing and piercing, you have to go to the character sheet. And here it says, hey, this is slashing. This is piercing. Do not be overwhelmed by this sheet. There are 9 damage types in the game. Most characters only deal with 1 or 2 of them at a time. Andrin is, this top part is physical, middle part is elemental, and last part is mystical. So your mages will be elemental, your warriors and scouts will be physical, and your mages will be, your priests will be mystical for the most part. Alright, there's a lot to talk about apparently. So on Andrin, we paid some gold, we got some lockpicks. They have an inventory over here. If I buy an item for a slot that I already have, it'll just replace it. So I just buy these gloves, blam. I replaced the starting gear that said +1 speed with 2 powerful. And because this powerful says, hey, I do more damage, which is a useful thing to have. Most of these buffs and debuffs will decay. So it says I gain 2 powerful at the start of combat, but then also, if you read it here, remove 2 charges at the end of the turn. So I will not keep the powerful from turn to turn, or it'll start to decay. Now, all these buildings are super small. They're super expensive. Removing cards of the church costs gold. Crafting cards over here cost shards. Let's craft a couple cards. Let's go to the altar. We're going to upgrade some cards. So if you notice down here in the bottom left, this is the average energy cost of my deck. Maybe I should have started with combat. I apologize, but we'll get to the combat soon. The idea is that on any given turn, you will draw 5 cards and you'll be given 3 energy. So you will have more cards than energy, which means I actually want this average cost to be kind of low. And you notice Magnus is at 1, Anders is a little above it, Evelyn's at 1, Reginald's a little above it. So we're actually going to upgrade these Andrin slices. You can take a look at all these upgrades, but we're going to go with slices. We're going to do the one that takes it from 1 cost to 0 cost. The damage goes a little lower, but the idea is that if we can play more cards, like if this costs 1 and I don't have enough energy to play it, then it does 0 damage. But if it costs 0 and I can play it, then suddenly I did 6 more damage. So it's the idea is you want to play as many of your cards in your hand as possible. So we'll go to Reginald. We'll also upgrade his flashes to 0. And that should bring everyone down to a solid average of 1, which is perfectly fine place for us to start our adventure. Now, we do have a very limited amount of golds and shards. As you complete a run, we'll get a treasure chest for a future run to give us more resources. Also, in this town upgrades, you'll notice most of them reduce the cost of things. So Magic Fort says, hey, we can craft more cards, but Altar says, hey, upgrading cards or transforming them costs 25% less. Oh, sorry, maybe it's down here. Cost of upgrading costs 15% less. So a lot of this, as we upgrade the Altar, upgrading and changing our cards costs less. As we upgrade the Forge, we can craft more cards and they cost less. At the church, we can start removing cards for less cost. Divination card, we can do more divinations and or they cost less. So a lot of our resources come from meta progression and playing the game and making things cheaper and more powerful. Yep, I think that's enough talk about the town. Hopefully, if you have any questions, they're answered here and or let me know what they are. Let's go to combat. So we're going to, once we're all done in the town, in multiplayer, everyone has to click ready and say, hey, I'm ready to go. Then we come out to this map. We're going to go for our pathing, go down to this pig, because I recommend the first character you should unlock is probably Otis. Otis fits really well into the starting team. I would replace, I don't know, maybe Evelyn or Andrin with him once you get him. But let's go explore how that works. So all these source nodes are combats. In combat, our turn order, every round of combat is going to be everyone taking 1 turn. No one takes more than 1. We will all take 1 turn, and the order of turns is determined by our speed. You see up here, Andrin says 20, and everyone else has different numbers varying. And on Andrin, he's got this little plus fast thing going on. So if we right click on him, we look at his talents. Everyone has a starting ability. Andrin says, hey, at the start of your turn, gain fast. So on his second and third turn, he'll be going, he'll try to go quicker than everyone else. This fast does decay at the end of the turn, but he gets it every turn. So that's his claim to fame, is he's super fast. Everyone has a different ability. Evelyn takes less elemental damage. Reginald gets stronger every turn. Magnus takes less physical damage. And as we level up our character, we'll be able to pick different card stats to our deck or different passive abilities that will modify our gameplay. We're not really going to cover that in the tutorial. Most of them are pretty straightforward, and the hardest part is just understanding the deck building and the way the combat works and rewards and stuff like that and meta progression. So that's what we're going to cover in this video. I do have character guides for everyone explaining all of their talents, all of their cards, that kind of stuff. But first you have to unlock some of those things, and yeah, that's where we're at now. So, like I said, we're given 3 energy a turn, but we started with 1 at the beginning of combat. So you see these green bars. This, on this character, Magnus here, he's got these 3 bars. So on his next turn, he'll be gaining 3 more energy. On my next turn, I'll be gaining 3 more energy, but right now I have 4. And also, as you highlight this character, right here. So Reginald, you see in the top left, he's got like a poker hand, a green symbol with 1. I can't highlight it and highlight him at the same time. He's going to be drawing 1 extra card. And that came from Magnus's equipment, because everyone starts with a starting item as well. Magnus says, hey, a random person draws an extra card at the beginning of combat. So Reginald will be drawing 1 more card. And yeah, goal of the combat. Put everyone's health to 0. Pretty straightforward. Up top here, you'll see they have these cards. These are going to be the abilities they're going to play. The reason it's card back right now is because you have to have sight on them to know what that card is going to be, so you can predict what they're going to do. Without sight, you just have to, it's just like, you don't know what they're going to do, and you just have to get used to what type of monsters do what sort of things. Me, I know all these pigs, they like throw quills, they attack the front person, and do some bleed. You know, I have an idea of what they do, or I can get some sight and see exactly what they're going to do if I go before them. But as it is, let's just go with killing. So usually I would recommend for your first couple of runs, just try to kill the first person, because you see on this slice, top left is a cost, and then right below its name there, it says front monster. So this one can only hit the front monster. I can't target it anywhere. Aim shot says, go figure, I can aim it, and it says monster. I can target any monster with it. Some cards will say hero, some will say all heroes, front hero, that kind of stuff. So for the starting team, I recommend just go front to back, kill the front monster in every combat, and just work your way to the back of the line. So we're just going to slice, 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 and do a aimed shot. Now you see on this card, it says 18 damage here. And if I right click on it, it says 14 damage. So the base damage of this card is 14. It's showing me 18 because it's showing me all of my buffs that are modifying it. Right now, I have Sharp increasing it. I also have Powerful increasing it, because Powerful says it does 1% more damage. So overall, it's doing 18 damage. But you notice on the boar, it's saying 20, and that's because if we look at the boar, we highlight him, top left now, where it says Wild Boar. Remember, there's 9 damage types, so, you know, just try to pay attention to only the ones you're looking at. Right now, we're looking at the piercing, the bow and arrow. That's in that top right there. It says minus 10%. So he takes 10% more damage from piercing, or has a negative resistance to piercing. So he is not reducing piercing damage. He will reduce slashing damage or blunt damage or mind damage. Fire, he's not going to modify that at all, that sort of thing. So each of these monsters, these are all pigs, but you can tell some of them have a little bit of a difference on the resistances here. The idea is some monsters will be weak to certain types of damage, and right now, if you're confused as to why it says 18 here and 20, that is why. So, bam, 20. I killed the first little piggy. He is now outside the turn order. And you can see it's going to be Magnus, and then both these guys are going to take a turn. So Magnus here can defend us. So this one costs 0, so I'm going to play that. Vulnerable says, hey, the resistances are lower. So now if I look at this, they're taking even more piercing damage. But this will disappear at the end of their turn. So the idea is some of these buffs are great, and these debuffs, buffs are for us, debuffs are for them. Some of these buffs are good, debuffs are bad. Yeah, let me say that right. So some of these debuffs, as we progress through the game, we're going to try to find ways to stack more and more of it instead of just one at a time, so that they can stay on the target and they will permanently reduce their resistances or their speed, because this one's saying, hey, they go slower, that sort of thing. Like, so if I had been able to do another slow charge, says -2 per stack, then I might have been able to get this piggy right here up top to go slower than my mage, and then she would have taken a turn before them. Alright, I'm covering so much ground. I feel like I'm going super fast. Hopefully this is a good pace. So me, I have the option. I can defend myself, or I can just try to kill things. Let's do these 2 fast strikes, and then decide between a rend, which does 5 damage, but applies 8 bleed, which you notice on the tooltip says, hey, he'll take 8 damage at the start of his turn, or I can defend. And let's go ahead and just show you how the defend works. So Pew, 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 pew. So I have fast mode on. Let me disable that. I apologize. So in gameplay, you may notice I had fast mode on, and I've removed the status effect backgrounds. I think that one is on by default. This is where I'm at to explain why you're seeing what you're seeing. But these characters, if you had a monster do an effect and you don't know what it was, you can either right click on the monster, say, hey, this is the card he cast. He did 3 piercing to a random hero, and it said repeat 3, so he did it 4 times total. So he hit me 4 times, and the target was random. He just randomly picked people. You can also go to the combat log up here. This one's a little more nitty gritty and hard to understand per se, but it is very useful to understand how some effects are happening. So on his turn, this is the end of the, wait. Yeah, I don't even know how to read this. Round 1, I think it goes up. Yeah, I think it scrolls up. Yep, because this is her turn, the beginning of her turn. She got the insulate from her passive. Yep. Wild Boar on his turn, he cast Bristly Fur. This other Wild Boar, he cast Tusk Barrage, and it shows it hit Evelyn twice, Andrew and Reginald once, the damage it did, that kind of thing. Alright, so where are we at? So shield. So block. Block is going to prevent damage, and that turns my bar blue. It says, hey, the next 14 damage I take will be instead to block instead of my hit point bar. This block is not affected by resistances. So if I look at Magnus, he's got like 45% resistance to all the physicals. This 14 block does not get that benefit. Only his health bar will get that benefit. And this block does not last the entire round. Once the round ends, it only lasts the entire round. Once the round ends, it'll disappear. It will not be there for round 2. So you can't save block from turn to turn unless you have a very specific buff called Fortify, which will not be covered in this this tutorial, but there are ways to make this last to the next turn. Usually for block to be effective, you have to apply it early in the turn, which is why Magnus is super fast and is the one applying block in this team. Alright, some spells have X's on them. This one says, hey, deal X Frost, X Lightning, X Chill, X Spark. All of this is equal to half of my hand size. That's what that little card symbol times 1.5 means. Now, with that, rounding is usually pretty straightforward. There's very few instances where it rounds down. Usually, it's all rounding is as you'd expect, so 0.5 would round up to 1. Very, very edge cases when that's not true. You'll also notice on this Cold Spark, it's got this little card burning symbol to the right of it. So it says I can target any monster, and it's got this card burning symbol. So when I play it, usually when I play a card, it goes to my discard pile, which is right here. But it didn't go there. Instead, if I right click on Evelyn and I go to Vanish pile, it's gone. It's vanished. This card is no longer in my deck. What that means is usually a card will go to the discard, and then once you run out of cards in your deck, it'll shuffle the discard and you'll draw more cards. But this Cold Spark was a one-off effect. It cannot be replayed. It is no longer in my deck. Vanish cards will come back at the end of a combat for your next combat, but they will no longer be in this combat. I only get a Cold Spark once per fight. That's what the Vanish part means. Which is actually a pretty good thing, because then I can reliably expect different cards in my deck at certain times. So now we have the option. Evelyn has a couple of spells here. Some say hero, some say monster. So shield is basically block for next turn. So if I thought Magnus was going to take damage next turn, I could give him some shield. This also applies Insolent, which says, hey, you take less fire or lightning damage, which is a big deal. The fire is a big deal if we go to the dungeon in this zone or the final boss of this zone. You'll be wanting to make sure you have Insulate on all your teammates. Insulate does decay 1 at a time, and if I apply 3 to myself, it'll go up to 4. So some of these buffs stack and some don't. If you notice this right here. Fast charges do not stack. So if I put more fast to him, it won't go from 1 to 3. It might go 1 to 2 because it'll just take the highest number. But things that don't say that, so charges do not stack. So Insulate 3, I play it here, bam, it didn't go up 3. It said it only went up 2 because the charges don't stack and it just took the highest of the 2 values I did it. So that's kind of a wasted card here. It's okay. We're just showing things. And then the others, I'm just going to do damage to the opponents. I'm going to kill this front monster with my damage spells. Nope, didn't quite kill him. It's okay. And then Reginald is my healer and or pew 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 kill off someone, because the best way to heal damage is to prevent damage. and then he will heal up the team. This is that sight I was telling you about. If I put this on the monster, nothing appears to happen, but next turn, when he has his cards out, I'll be able to see what his cards are. It'll reveal up to 3 of the cards that he has, which on this difficulty, he only has 1. Alright. Inspire says, hey, you draw extra cards. Evelyn has a card that says, hey, you get extra energy. That's going to be these green symbols down here, or the poker cards in the top left. Where that little blue symbol in the top left says, hey, she's grabbing an extra energy. So she has 4 energy coming in instead of 3. I feel like I'm kind of belaboring the point here, so let's just play this turn out. I want to kill this piggy, so I'm going to deal damage. I'm going to draw some cards. I'm going to find more damage. I'm going to deal damage. I can't play this any card anymore, but I have one that says, hey, gain more energy. So I'll do that, and I'll do more damage. Tracker, there are some cards that say look at cards in a deck. So you'll see on Andrin, he's got 3 cards left in his deck. And I can see what those 3 cards are by clicking on it. He also has 10 cards in his discard, which once he runs out of cards, these will all be shuffled, and he'll see what he gets next. On Magnus here, though, what I'm going to do is I'm going to expert tracker and say, hey, I want to look at the top 5 cards of your deck. And of the ones I don't want, I can get rid of. So I want to just kill this pig. I don't need to defend. So I'm going to try to make that happen. Going super fast here. Hopefully this is all. So the cards I told him to discard, they went straight in here. I didn't play them. There's a bunch of defense here. I didn't play last turn, and I didn't draw last turn because Andrin did that for me and put them there. I'm going to draw a card, do some damage, kill off the piggy. Combat rewards. So at the top of the combat, I didn't show it very well. There's this little meter saying, hey, the faster you kill them, the better your rewards. So faster is usually better. You will want to make sure that you are fairly healthy at the end of a fight, because your hit points will roll over from one fight to the next. So if you end a combat with very low hit points, the odds are you're going to fail the next one. So be sure to take your time and heal up if you have the opportunity. Make sure Reginald gets a turn and get everyone off at high hit points. This is especially easy if you only have like 1 monster left. But if you don't need healing, try to kill them as quick as possible, because the better your performance is, the better bonus you get in gold experience. Experience is how you level up your character in this run and in the meta progression to unlock, you know, the new abilities and stuff for them. And your cards are going to be stronger. This has +1 cards here. It's basically saying, hey, your rewards, instead of all being common, which if you look at this top symbol, this has nothing at the top of the card. This one has a little green symbol. This is an uncommon card. This is a common. We're not going to go over the rarities, but the better you do in combat, the better your rewards. So I can take a look at my current decks. Hey, here's what I got. And with deck builders, the idea is that you don't want to just grab a card reward every time. You want to make sure that the cards you're grabbing are making your deck better. You still want your deck to be fairly small so that you have a consistency of drawing what you want. Because if I added like 2 good cards and I didn't take out any bad cards, yes, I increased my deck. But if I add 2 good cards and take away 2 bad cards, then suddenly my deck is even like, I'm babbling. I'm running without a script. So I don't want to add every single card. I only want to add cards that are better than most of the cards in my deck. Yes, if it's better than only 1 card in my deck, I could add it. But in general, I use a rule of 3. As long as it's better than 3 cards in your deck, go ahead and pick it up. Like, I would rather see this sweeping strike than some of these defends. I like the intercepts because I can apply armor to my teammates. I like the fast strikes because they're very cheap attacks. I don't necessarily like these Rens, and I don't like these defends. So I will be adding 1 or 2 extra cards to his deck as I see them to make his deck a little more powerful. For Andrin, none of these ones are actually better than anything I'm running, because his Poisonous Shot says 2 energy for 11 damage, and I already have some 2 energy for 14 damage cards, so I'm actually not going to pick any of these up. Take a look as you see fit. Shadow Bolt, 3 for 25 damage, that's pretty good. If I look at Evelyn, I've got some, 2 for 14, that's pretty good. 0 for 3, that's really bad damage, but it costs 0, so that's an upside. Charge Battery, this is a very weak card, so I would rather have Shadow Bolt over that. And then Andrin, I can either pick up some more damage or some more healing. Let's just go with some more healing for now. Alright, so that was a combat node. Then there are book nodes. These are events. These events will give you choices. Now, if I look at this book, I've got some storyline, I've got some options I can choose, and if you look down here, I just have 4 hidden options. So you can see this one's got Andrin's little face on it. Andrin, my scout. This option doesn't exist unless I have Andrin in the group. There are 4 other options. I think of these ones, I know at least 3 of them are characters for this event. You're not going to see which ones you're missing or what the requirements are, but you just know that there are 4 others you haven't seen that could exist on this particular event. And on these events, you see these dice over here. This one, if I do it, I have a 79% chance of success, which means I have to draw cards to get the event. We'll do one of these, so that's pretty straightforward. 79%, 43%, 34. We're actually going to go with this 34, just because I know I'm going to fail it, and I want to show you something about it. So hey, we will cheat and use special bait. Let's pay the 60 gold fee. What happens is everyone involved in the event will draw a card. So if I had chosen the other ones, that would have been a group event, and everyone would have picked a random card from their deck. And if I had gone over they were like, hey, a total of 5 or greater, or 3 or less, or something like that, it'd pull all their cards and add up the energy costs, and we'd pass or fail based on this. For Andrin, I was supposed to draw a skill card. Instead, I drew an aim shot. This is not a skill card, and instead I got an injury. So injuries, these are added to my deck, and I can remove them in town, but this is a card that I'll draw that does nothing, and I'll show you that here in this next combat. And some events, if you fail them, or depending on what your results are, you might actually end up with a combat. So this combat is a direct result of failing that event. So with Andrin, you see, boop. See, he just had this pop on his screen, this Vanish card. He drew level self-esteem. It doesn't do anything on draw Vanish, so I draw it once and then it's out of my deck. That's not the case for all difficulty levels, but for this difficulty level, that's what happened. But since I drew it, I didn't draw another card. I only have 4 cards in my hand, so that's how that injury is hurting me. It's making my deck worse. So it's just the idea in a deck builder that the more bad cards you have, the more likely to draw the bad cards, and then you'll have less good cards. I don't know. Deck builders are fun because you kind of got to manipulate your chances and your odds by trying to make your deck as full as many goodness and wonderful cards as possible. This combat, no need to follow along exactly. I'm just going to breeze through it as fast as possible so I can get to the next part of the video. Hopefully I don't go too blazing fast for you to not understand what's going on. I'm basically just going to always try to aim for this front monster. I made a mistake. I added Mark. I wanted to do 2 attacks, but that's okay because that Mark will make this Magnus's turn a little stronger, because now when he hit this pig, he'll do lots of extra damage. And so right here, I could play Barricade. It says block to all my teammates, but if you look up top, no monsters are going to take a turn. So this Barricade does me no good. This defense doesn't. None of this does me any good because they went before me, and these shields will fall off at the end of the turn, so I'm not going to play any of them. Maybe if some of my teammates were burning or had some effects that do damage, then I'd be able to have some use out of it. But as it is now, I got no use for it. Where are we at here? Some effects say global. That means it'll affect me and the enemies. Regen says, hey, you heal 1 a turn. Wet says, put out your fire. So I don't really need to play this. I could heal up people. Only person that needs healing is Magnus. So let's heal him. And do a little damage. Alright, so if you notice on these health bars, they've got this little preview of what's to come. So right here, it says Andrew's going to lose 4 health to bleed on his turn. We'll talk about that here in just a second on Magnus's turn. Sorry, having some coughing, hoping the microphone doesn't bug out there. So if I play Intercept on Reginald to try to prevent that damage, he's still taking it because bleed is not affected by block. Burn would be affected. There's a lot of effects that are stopped by block, but there's a few that don't, like bleed and poison. So he's going to take that damage no matter how much Magnus tries to stop it, which is sad. But if Andrin doesn't take his turn before the combat ends, this bleed will not carry over to next combat. The only thing that carries over to next combat is our total hit points. So I'm going to give Reginald here a little bit of extra energy and cards. We're going to do a little zapping on this front little guy. We're going to call it a day. Go ahead and take a look at what Bless does. Bless says, hey, I deal more damage and I take more healing. So Reginald can actually do some pretty powerful damage. And I'd actually suggest once you have Otis on your team, try out having Reginald be one of your damage dealers and have Otis be your full-time healer. Otis has a unique way of healing, and Reginald has a very powerful way of dealing damage. Like I said, the order doesn't really matter so much here. Our seeds will only be affected by the card rewards we pick up, not necessarily by the order we play cards in combat. So you'll still be able to follow along. We're only going to do 1 or 2 more nodes before I end this tutorial. So with Magnus here, I'm still going to add a couple more cards. But remember, it costs money and resources to remove cards. This one, Sharp's great. Sharp is a lot better later in the game, like in your once your characters are stronger and you have perks. We'll show you perks at the end of this game. I actually wish I could skip this combat because I want to get to this piggy node. Alright, Corruptors. So when you click on a node, a combat node, any that are actually the swords on the map, most of those will actually have a corruption option, which means you can take a harder fight for a better reward. So in this case, we can choose to say, hey, they gain higher physical resistances, and we sometimes can't play attacks, but we can gain more resources or go to an upgrade altar. We'll do the more resources and see how this goes. Every corruptor is different. They all have different effects, so take a good close look at them, see how they affect your team. Again, I'm just going to breeze through my turn. I'll try to go slow enough you can follow along if you really need to, but I will try to not take too much time here. Remember, just try to kill the front monster for the most part. Pew, 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 pew. I probably should have played some defense there instead of attacks. My hit points will suffer, but it is okay. Fire and lightning. So some effects, like Burn here, this one's pretty cool because not only is Burn going to do damage on their turn, but it says fire resistance minus 2%. So a lot of the elemental damage, they will reduce the resistances of the target if you put their specific effect on them. So like the spark one says, hey, later spark damage lightning damage is increased. Early on in your progress in this game, there's going to be hard to stack significant amounts, but later on as you progress through and get stronger in this game, you'll be able to stack, a couple hundred burn at a time, and suddenly they'll be taking tons of damage on their turn, and their resistances will be absolutely 0. The max it'll go to is negative 95%, so they basically take double damage, and the highest they can get is 95%, so they take basically 5% damage. They take a 20th of the damage. So resistances, the idea is you want to make sure you get them down to 0 or less for best effect. Yep, and I could prevent some damage to Magnus next turn, maybe. I don't really need the sight. You're welcome to do the sight to see what the piggy's doing. Now you see on this one, these cards are red because I can't play them. I'm disarmed. I cannot do any attack cards. So if I look down, all these keywords at the bottom, if I hover it, it'll list all of them. Or if I right click on the card, I can do it'll show them all here in the middle. Can't see it, I'm pointing at the screen. So I can only play things that aren't attacks, which in this case was only that mark. I've got the auto end turn on, so it's saying, hey, you literally can't play anything, so I'm just going to move to the next person. I'm like, cool, that's fine. I like that. That's why I enabled that. And you can see all this damage is blocked. No hit points went down because that is, I went ahead of him and I applied those shield charges. And this little piggy is going to go wee all the way to the graveyard. Now, like I said, before you end a combat, make sure you get as much healing in as possible. I've only got one heal spell here, this flash heal, but I'm going to use it before I kill the pig because this will kill the pig. And I want to be as healthy as possible going into the next combat because my hit points do roll over to the next combat and you can lose a run by not maintaining that well. I'm not going to grab any of these. So I am using slices in Endrin's deck. I like those. Those are good. But I also like cards like this expert. I wish this would scale better, scroll better. I can't scroll. Oh, there we go. I like this adrenaline because it gives me energy. I like this expert tracker because I can discard cards on Magnus, and it gives him an extra card. So I like these slices, but I don't necessarily want to add another slice to the deck because it's going to make it less likely for me to get this expert tracker or this adrenaline, and I really like those cards more than I like a slice. So I'm not going to pick up this slice. And same thing with all this. I might pick this up 3 for 20, 2 for 12, but it gives Bless. I don't know. It's not a good card overall. It's okay for your early runs, but later in the runs, you're not going to like it. Some nodes have, hey, these are effects. I can pay gold for them. I can pay resources. If I don't have enough gold, this will be grayed out and said I can't do it, and I'll just have to do the cheaper ones. But, yeah, explore these to your heart's content. I don't want any of these for the reasons I mentioned. Blade Flurry. Sure, I like that better than Slash or the Slices. I don't like Searing Nova because I don't have any burn on her. Now, when we get these cards, you'll see a bunch of unlocks on them as you play them. That means these cards will be available for future runs. In that town where I said I can add cards, I'll be able to add them into a future deck or a future run. Alright, now Otis. I went to this thing and I have a bunch of options. I can accept his quest, I can decline his quest, I can do the Magnus specific thing, which is also accepting the quest. Read through this as you'd like. But now, whoop. So you saw all those things that unlocked. So skill cards, those are unlocked for future runs to add to the deck. But when you unlock items, that doesn't actually do anything. So don't worry about that. Unlocking items is just for like a completionist sort of thing. Like, hey, I've seen all the items, I'm going to unlock them all. Great. It doesn't actually affect gameplay any. Unlocking cards does affect gameplay because then you can't craft a card you haven't unlocked yet. I'm not going to pick any of these just for the tutorial's sake because we're done with the tutorial, but pick those and choose those as you'd like. So now you see here on the bottom left, I have the Scared Pigman. I have a quest from Otis saying, hey, can you please deal with Yager? Well, Yager's just up here on this question mark. Now, if he's on the map, it'll show a question mark. If he's on a future map, when you go to this little map transition to the next node, it'll kind of direct you where to go. Like, hey, you have a quest over in this zone. You should probably go to this zone. That'll apply to all these other three. They'll go to other zones. But it'll just be, hey, follow the question mark. And you can see I can just follow the path up here. I'll go be able to do the event here and maybe unlock the pig. And when you're done with a run, you can't quit from this menu and get rewards. You don't want to exit it and delete the run. You either are going to run until you die, or run until you win the game, or if for some reason you're done with the run but you want to get the experience for the run, you got to go into a combat and then click resign. I'm doing that because I'm done with the tutorial and I want to show you the next step. And this will show you all the cards I've unlocked for the run. Now I can craft these in my starting decks. The items are just for flavor, but the actual skill cards I can now put in my decks. And then this treasure chest, I can use this on a future run. I'll show you that here in a bit. Your final score determines how much rewards you get for your next run. And you also start unlocking perk points. Did not get as much experience as last time I did this. Yeah, let's talk about player progression here. So now when I go to play and I do a new run, I haven't unlocked Otis, but you probably have by this point. Or you will shortly. But you can see over here, I've got this blinking little one. Let's go here. So these are my normal character stats. Leveling up in the meta progression doesn't change my stats or my starting deck or anything like that. But what it does is it does all this stuff right here. So once I hit 4, I get a new item. By new item, I mean this starting item will upgrade to a... Why does it only show me the Corrupted? There should be a yellow and a blue version of this. And this will get stronger as it goes. It'll start to do more damage, that kind of thing. Or I will get new card backs. Those are just down here. I'll be able to do the different flavors of Magnus. I will be able to get new starting cards, new starting items, and new talent cards. So all of these, I say nothing that's changed. All of this changes apparently. So these starting cards, there's the base version, and then as you level up, it becomes stronger and stronger. So you can get a stronger character by playing them more. And then his starting card will upgrade. It won't go to this corrupted one. I don't know why the corrupted one's there. His starting card is Captain's Howl. This will get stronger as you play him. More and more vulnerable, which I said increases damage they take, which is great. And all that is by ranking them up. These ranks are shared amongst the entire row, so all warriors will share a skill, an experience pool. And so they'll all level up through these ranks the same. Same thing with scouts, mages, and healers. That's another reason to maybe put Otis in the team, is so you can level up a healer faster and kind of experience what the character, what the rank unlocks are. Because that'll start upgrading some of the cards in their deck and stuff. And then also, every time you level up, you get a new perk point. Oh, sorry, let me click on this better. So here, perks. I can now add 1 point because he's level 1. You can go to maximum of 40. Don't quote me. And I can spend it here in this tree. And all this tree says is like, hey, more damage, more speed, more energy, more starting charges. So these two columns are how healthy your character is, how much less damage they take, how much more hit points they have. These two columns are how much starting resources you have in the starting town. Then there's a bunch of speed and energy. A lot of them are going to be like, hey, when we apply, remember there was I was applying Mark with Andrin, or I was applying Vulnerable with Magnus. This is a key node for Magnus. He now applies 1 more stack of Vulnerable. The circle ones, there's only 1 point. Like I just click here and that's done. And you have to have 3 total points across all of the boards to go to the next row. And these square ones, you'll take a pick between which one of these 3 options you want. I have guides on which ones to do there. Like I said, the next video is how to win with the starting team. But for now, Reginald, if I want to do more damage with him, I'm going to, hey, do more holy damage. If I want to do more healing with him, I'm going to do more healing. I recommend, once you have Otis unlocked, try him as a damage dealer. He's pretty strong there. And as you level up, you'll have more and more access to perks, and your character will get stronger this way. And you have to do that on every character. Magnus, I want him to do more blocking, so he'll have more block, etc., as we play. And yeah, I think that covers everything I want to talk about. Let's do one more run. So like I said, the game seed's random. You can pick and choose. If I did the Decker Tech, I'll have the same. I should have. So for us, it worked, but I'll show you something about random seed. So we did unlock, maybe unlocking items changes the shop. I don't think unlocking items changes anything. Yeah, we have the same items in here. You'll eventually be able to unlock pets as well. But see, all the items are the same. I can play the same run if I want to and just make different choices. But you see here, last reward. So you can stack up to 3 chests. These chests are, hey, based on how well you did in your last run, you can now have more starting resources. So now instead of having 300 of each, blam, I now have much more resources, and I can make this run a much stronger run because now I can craft more cards. And remember, I unlocked things like Sweeping Strike. I can now craft more cards because I unlocked more cards. I did not get any supplies. I cannot upgrade my town, but that is the strongest meta progression you can do, is unlocking the town, making it stronger. And yeah, and then I play the run again. I unlock some more characters. I get some more experience. I get more stuff like that. Eventually, I start unlocking Madness. Whoops. Once you start unlocking Madness levels, a lot of things will change. The treasure chests only exist up to like Madness 3. The amount of golds and shards you get will depend on what Madness level you're running. Yeah, just take a look at all this stuff. It'll affect it. Once you unlock them, you'll see the game will change, and mechanics change. And I hope this was helpful, and I feel like that covers everything. Good luck with your run. Let me know if you have questions. I might re-record this because, I don't know. I'll go rewatch it, and I'll take feedback from y'all, and maybe I'll do a better one. This was my first attempt at the tutorial, because I feel I was kind of missing. I had the, like I said, after this video is how to win with a starting team. That talks a lot about how to stack buffs and do extra damage and build the team to succeed. But, yeah. Catch you later. Peace.